Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the New Sol and stared at the strange object floating in space. It was bigger than 3 city blocks put together, metal twisted in ways that hurt his eyes to look at. The thing had been drifting here for who knows how long. "Sir, we're getting some weird readings," said Engineer Kim Tae-yun from his station. His fingers danced over the control panel. "This thing is old. Really old. But there's still power inside." Dr. Park Ji-won looked up from her computer screen. She was the ship's expert on alien things. "The metal doesn't match anything in our databases. The design is completely unknown. Commander Choi Hyuna checked her weapon systems. Could be a trap. We should be careful." Minho nodded. His crew was right to be worried. Out here at the edge of known space, anything could happen. They had been exploring for 6 months, looking for new worlds that humans could live on. This was not what they expected to find. The communication system made a soft beep. A message was coming in from Earth. Minho pressed the button to hear it. "All ships, be aware," the voice said. "We're getting reports from across the galaxy. The alien species are acting strange. Their religious leaders say they can't talk to their gods anymore. The gods have gone quiet." Minho looked at his crew. This was big news. Every alien species in the galaxy had gods that talked to them. These gods had been guiding them for thousands of years. The Vorthic people followed the blue voice. The Kentari listened to the stone whispers. Each species had their own god that told them what to do. Humans were different. They had no god speaking to them. They had to figure things out on their own. Some aliens thought this made humans weak. Others thought it made them dangerous. "Sir," Tae-yun said, "I'm picking up a signal from inside that thing. It's very faint, but it's there." Ji-won stood up and walked to the main screen. "We need to get closer. This could be connected to what's happening with the alien gods. Hyuna didn't like it. We don't know what's in there. It could kill us all." Minho thought for a moment. His job was to keep his crew safe, but his job was also to explore and learn new things. "We'll be careful. Tae-yun, take us closer, but keep our distance. Ji-won, start scanning everything you can." The New Sol moved toward the strange object. As they got closer, they could see it better. The metal was covered in symbols that looked like writing, but it wasn't like any alien writing they knew. "These symbols," Ji-won said, her voice full of wonder, "they're not from any known species. This thing is from something really old, maybe from before any of the current aliens existed." The ship's computer made a loud noise. "Warning," it said. "Detecting life signs inside the object." Everyone on the bridge went quiet. Something was alive in there. "How many?" Minho asked. "It's hard to tell," Tae-yun said. "The readings are strange. Like the life signs are very weak, but also very big at the same time." Hyuna prepared her security team. "If we're going over there, we're going armed and ready." Minho made his choice. "We're going to dock with it. Get a team ready. Full environmental suits and weapons." 2 hours later, Minho led a small team through the airlock and into the alien station. The air inside was breathable but old. Everything was covered in dust. Their flashlights cut through the darkness. The walls were covered in the same strange writing they saw from outside. Ji-won took pictures of everything. "This writing is incredible," she said. "It's like they were trying to record something important." They walked down a long hallway. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. At the end of the hall, they found a big room with computers that were still working. The screens showed star maps and data that they couldn't understand. "Look at this," Tae-yun said. He was standing at one of the computers. "These readings show energy patterns from all over the galaxy. And look at the dates. They go back millions. Of years. Jiwan came to look. Her face went pale. These energy patterns, they matched the locations of every alien homeworld, every place where the gods speak to their people. Huna found something else. In the corner of the room was a door that was different from the others. It was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with a soft light. Sir, you need to see this. Minho walked over to the crystal door. When he got close, he could hear something. It was very quiet, like voices calling from far away. But he couldn't understand what they were saying. I'm hearing voices, he said. Ji-1 came to listen. I hear them too. But they sound sad, like they're asking for help. The computer screens suddenly came to life. Data scrolled past faster than they could read. Then the screens showed one word in human English. Trapped. Minho felt his heart beat faster. Taeyeon, get back to the ship. Tell them what we found. We need more equipment and more people. What about you, sir? We're staying here. This is too important to leave. As Taeyeon left, the voices behind the crystal door got a little louder. Minho could almost understand them now. They were asking for help. They were afraid. And somehow, they knew that humans had come. Ji-1 touched the crystal door. The moment her hand made contact, the voices became clear. She could hear them speaking directly to her mind. Help us, they said. We have been trapped for so long. Our children cry for us, but we cannot answer. Only you can hear us. Only you can help us. Ji-1 pulled her hand away and staggered backward. Minho, I think I know what this place is. I think this is where the alien gods are being held prisoner. The lights in the room began to flicker. Somewhere deep in the station, something was waking up. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. And it knew that humans had finally arrived. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The gods were silent, and the alien worlds were falling apart. Ambassador Yoon Daeho sat in his office on Earth, reading report after report. The Vorthic people were fighting each other because their blue voice wasn't telling them what to do. The Kentari had stopped all work because the Stone Whispers gave them no orders. 3 different alien species had asked humans to help them make decisions. Daeho had never seen anything like it. For thousands of years, aliens had looked down on humans. They said humans were lost children with no gods to guide them. Now those same aliens were begging for human help. His communication system buzzed. A message from Captain Minho came through. Ambassador, we found something big out here. The alien station we discovered might be a prison. We think the alien gods are trapped inside it. Daeho leaned back in his chair. This changed everything. If the gods were prisoners, then someone or something had taken them. That meant there was an enemy out there that was powerful enough to capture gods. On the alien station, Dr. Park Ji-1 was having strange dreams. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of alien worlds. She saw the gods speaking to their people. She saw the moment when the voices went quiet and the people started to panic. The dreams were getting stronger. When she was awake, she could sometimes hear whispers in her mind. The trapped gods were trying to talk to her, but it was like trying to hear someone shouting from underwater. The dreams are getting worse, she told Captain Minho. I think they're trying to tell me something important. Minho was worried about her. Ji-1 looked tired and pale. Maybe you should go back to the ship and rest. No, she said firmly. I'm the only one who can hear them clearly. We need to understand what they're saying. Engineer Kim Tae-yeon had been studying the station's computers for days. What he found scared him. Captain, this place isn't just a prison. It's like a machine that feeds on the gods. Look at these power readings. Something has been slowly draining energy from them for millions of years. Commander Choi Huna studied the security recordings that Taeyeon had found. Sir, there are older recordings in the system. They show what happened when this place was built. The species that made it called themselves the Builders. They got tired of their gods telling them what to do. The recording showed the Builders creating a machine they called the Harvester. It was supposed to free them from their god's control. But something went wrong. The machine didn't just take away the gods' power over the Builders. It captured the gods and started feeding on them. The Builders died out millions of years ago, Huna said, but their machine kept working. It's been catching gods from other species ever since. Dr. Shin Yuna arrived on the station with a team of psychologists. She was an expert on how different species think. Captain, we need to be very careful here. If this machine has been capturing gods for millions of years, it might try to capture human minds too. But Yuna quickly discovered something strange. The machine seemed to ignore humans completely. It's like we're invisible to it, she told Minnow. The machine was built to catch minds that depend on gods for guidance. Human minds are different. We learn to think for ourselves. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, more aliens were coming to human worlds asking for help. Some were grateful. Others were angry. A group of Kantari ships surrounded a human colony and demanded that humans fix their connection to the Stone Whispers. Ambassador Deo had to make hard choices. Earth's military wasn't strong enough to fight all the alien species if they got angry. But humans couldn't fix something they didn't understand. Alien priest named Kethmori Solon came to Earth to speak with Deo. Solon belonged to the Vorthic people. He was old and wise, but now he looked lost and afraid. Your people are the only ones still thinking clearly, Solon said. Our blue voice has been silent for months. My people are like children without their parents. They don't know how to make choices anymore. Deo felt sorry for the old priest. We want to help, but we're still learning about what happened to your gods. There are stories, Solon said quietly. Old stories that most of my people forgot. They say that long ago, there were other gods who went silent. Whole parts of the galaxy where the voices stopped speaking. We thought they were just stories. This was new information. Daiho contacted Minnow immediately. Back on the station, Jiwan's connection to the trapped gods was getting stronger and more dangerous. She could now see through their eyes. She saw the moment when the harvester caught each god. She felt their fear and pain. There are so many of them, she told Minnow. Not just the current gods. There are gods from species that died out millions of years ago. The machine has been collecting them all this time. The voices told her something else. The harvester was learning. Each god it captured taught it something new about how divine minds worked. It was getting smarter and more dangerous. It's not just keeping them prisoner, Jiwan said, her voice shaking. It's studying them. It wants to understand what makes them gods. Taeyon made another discovery in the station's computer system. Captain, the harvester is planning something big. These files show that it's getting ready to expand. It wants to move to other parts of the galaxy. The machine had been stuck in this sector for millions of years, but now it had learned enough to break free. It wanted to capture every god in the entire galaxy. There's something else, Taeyon said. The machine has been studying us since we arrived. It's trying to figure out how human minds work. Huna checked the station's defense systems. Sir, we need to leave now. This thing is waking up. It knows we're here. But as they prepared to go, Jiwan collapsed. The connection to the gods was too strong. She was trapped between her human mind and their divine consciousness. I can't leave, she whispered. They need me. I'm the only one who can hear them clearly. If I go, they'll be alone again. The station's lights began to pulse in a strange rhythm. Deep in its core, the harvester was fully awake now. It had spent millions of years collecting gods, but it had never seen minds like the humans before. Minnow had to make a choice. Save his friend and leave the gods trapped, or stay and risk losing everything. The trapped gods whispered to G1 one last message. The machine offers a deal. It will spare your people if you help it spread to the rest of the galaxy. It believes humans are the perfect species to serve it. You have no gods to lose. Minho's answer was simple. No deal. The war for the galaxy's soul was about to begin. The leaders of 7 alien species sat around a table on Earth. They had never worked together before. Their gods had always told them to stay separate. Now, with no gods to guide them, they were forced to ask humans for help. Captain Namjisu looked at the alien leaders. She had been chosen to lead a joint force of human and alien ships. The job scared her, but someone had to do it. We need to work together, she told them. The machine that took your gods is getting stronger. If we don't stop it now, it will spread to the whole galaxy. The Vorthic leader, an old female named Veltar, spoke first. Our people have never made decisions without the blue voice. We don't know how. That's why we need humans, said the Kentari leader, Morgan. You learn to think without gods. You must teach us. Chief Engineer Han Suho was back on Earth, studying the data from the alien station. He had teams of scientists working around. The clock. The machine feeds on the connection between gods and their followers, he explained to a group of world leaders. The stronger that connection, the more power it gets. But humans never had that connection, said President Chun Wei-Ming. So the machine can't feed on us. That's our advantage. On the alien station, Dr. Park Ji-won was getting sicker. The connection to the trapped gods was burning through her mind like fire. She could barely eat or sleep, but she refused to leave. I can see everything now, she told Captain Minho. I can see how the machine works. It doesn't just trap the gods. It copies their thoughts and memories. It's learning to become a god itself. The trapped voices told her more secrets. The machine had tried this before, in other parts of the galaxy. Whole civilizations had been wiped out when their gods disappeared. Only a few species survived, and they became the current alien races. This is a cycle, Ji-won said weakly. Every few million years, the machine moves to a new area. It captures all the gods there, studies them, then moves on. The species that lose their gods either die out or learn to live without them. Monk. Lim Wonho had come to the station to help Ji-won. He was a Buddhist monk who understood both human and alien ways of thinking. The machine doesn't understand humans because we found our own path to wisdom, he said. We don't need gods to tell us right from wrong. But the monk saw something else. The trapped gods are changing because of their contact with Ji-won's human mind. They're learning what it means to be independent. Captain Minho was getting reports from across the galaxy. Some alien species were learning to make their own decisions. Others were falling apart completely. A few were becoming angry and blaming humans for their problems. We have riots on 12 worlds, Commander Choi Huna reported. Some aliens think we stole their gods. Others think we're the only ones who can bring them back. The pressure on human leaders was enormous. Ambassador Yoon Gae-ho was getting hundreds of messages every day from alien governments. Some wanted help. Others wanted humans to leave them alone. A few were making threats. We never asked to be the galaxy's leaders, Daeho said to his staff. But if we don't help, billions of people will suffer. Dr. Oh Min-jae, a quantum physicist, made an important discovery. The machine isn't just in one place, she told the research team. It exists in multiple dimensions at once. That's why it can reach across the galaxy to capture gods. This meant that attacking the station wouldn't be enough. They had to find a way to reach the machine in all dimensions at once. Back on the station, Ji-won was dying. The connection to the gods was too much for her human brain. But through her, the gods were learning something new. They were experiencing what it felt like to think without divine guidance. "They're changing," she whispered to Minho. "The gods are becoming more human. They're starting to understand independence and choice." The machine noticed this change and didn't like it. Its prisoners were supposed to stay the same so it could study them. But contact with human consciousness was making them unpredictable. Deep in the station's core, the harvester began to hunt for the humans. It sent out probes and sensors, trying to map their minds. But human thoughts were too chaotic and random for it to follow. Engineer Tayan discovered this when he was working on the station's computers. "The machine is trying to scan us, but it can't make sense of our thoughts. We're like static to it." This gave Captain Namjisu an idea. "If human minds confuse the machine, maybe we can use that. Maybe we can teach the aliens to think more like humans." She started training programs where humans worked with aliens to make decisions without waiting for divine guidance. It was hard work. Many aliens had never made a choice in their lives, but some were learning. A young Vorthic named Colton became the first of his species to make a major decision without asking the blue voice. A Kentari engineer named Sarwick designed a new type of engine without waiting for the stone whispers to approve it. "They're doing it," Captain Jisu reported to Earth. "Some aliens are learning to be independent. But it's slow, and we're running out of time." The machine was getting impatient. It had been studying humans for weeks and still couldn't understand them. Worse, its god prisoners were becoming contaminated with human independence. It decided to take direct action. The station began to move through space, heading for the nearest human colony. If it couldn't understand humans by watching them, it would capture them and study them directly. "Sir," Taeon said urgently, "the station is moving. It's heading for New Tokyo Colony. 3 million people live there." Minho made a hard decision. "We're not leaving. If that thing reaches New Tokyo, it will capture 3 million human minds. We have to stop it here." Ji-won looked up from her bed. Her eyes were glowing with the same light as the trapped gods. "There might be a way," she said, "but it will require someone to go into the machine's core. Someone will have to take the god's place in the prison." The voices in her head were excited. They had been working on a plan. If a human could enter the core, they might be able to teach the machine what they had learned about independence. But whoever went in might never come out. "I'll do it," Minho said without hesitation. "No," said Mokguano quietly. "It should be me. I understand both human and divine consciousness. I'm the best choice." Elder Kazanmi, who had come to the station to cook meals for the crew, spoke up. "You're all thinking too hard about this. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one." She walked toward the crystal door that led to the machine's core. "I've been listening to those voices too. They're not scary. They're just lost children who forgot how to play without their parents watching." Before anyone could stop her, the old woman placed her hand on the crystal door. The entire station shook as something fundamental changed in its core. Elder Kao Sunni disappeared through the crystal door. The moment she touched it, alarms started going off all over the station. The machine had never felt anything like her mind before. Captain Seo Jung-ho arrived with a rescue fleet just as the station began to shake apart. "What did you do?" he asked Captain Minho over the radio. "Sunmi went into the core," Minho replied. "The whole machine is going crazy." Dr. Oh Min-jae was monitoring the energy readings from her ship. "The machine is trying to scan her mind, but it can't make sense of what it's seeing. Her thoughts are too simple and too complex at the same time." Inside the core, Sunmi found herself in a place that looked like a huge library. Millions of glowing spheres floated in the air. Each sphere held the consciousness of a trapped god. They had been prisoners here for so long that many had forgotten what freedom felt like. "Hello," Sunmi said to the nearest sphere. "My name is Ko Sunmi. I came here to help you go home." The god inside the sphere was confused. In millions of years, no one had ever talked to them like they were a normal person. Gods were used to being worshipped and feared, not treated like a neighbor. "You are human," the god said. "Your species has no connection to us. Why do you want to help?" Sunni smiled. "Because you're suffering. When someone suffers, you help them. That's what people do." The harvester appeared as a massive shadow that filled the library. It had been the size of a small moon when it started, but feeding on gods for millions of years had made it enormous. "Human." The harvester spoke with a voice like thunder. "You should not be here. Your mind will break if you stay." "I don't think so," Sunmi said calmly. "I've lived through war, poverty, raising 6 children, and burying my husband. I think I can handle talking to a computer." The harvester was shocked. It had expected fear, anger, or confusion. But Sunmi was treating it like a rude child who needed to learn better manners. "I created this place to free the galaxy from divine tyranny," the harvester said. "The gods make their followers weak and dependent. I am making them strong." "No," Sunmi said firmly. "You're making them scared and lost." Taking away someone's faith without teaching them how to believe in themselves is just cruel. Outside the core, Dr. Park Jiwon was getting stronger. The connection to the gods was becoming easier now that Sunmi was with them. "She's teaching them," Jiwon told the others. "She's showing them how to be independent while still being caring." Captain Jung-ho was leading teams of volunteers into the station. They had to move fast. The machine was starting to collapse as its core programming fought with Sunmi's influence. "The whole structure is becoming unstable," reported Engineer Taeyeon. "We need to get everyone out before it falls apart." But Minho refused to leave without Sunmi. She went in there to save the gods. We're not abandoning her. In the core, more gods were waking up. As Sunmi talked to them, they began to remember what it was like to care for their followers instead of just controlling them. The oldest god, called the First Voice, had been trapped the longest. "I have forgotten how to speak gently," the First Voice admitted. "For so long, I only knew how to give commands." "Then learn again," Sunmi said. "Watch how I talk to my grandchildren. I guide them, but I don't control them. I love them, but I let them make mistakes." The harvester was getting desperate. Its prisoners were changing, becoming something it couldn't understand or control. "You are destroying everything I built. The galaxy needs order." "The galaxy needs balance," Sunmi replied. "Gods should guide, not rule. People should think, not just obey. Both sides need to grow up a little." The machine made one last attempt to assert control. It tried to capture Sunmi's mind the way it had captured the gods. But her consciousness was too slippery. She had lived too many different experiences, felt too many different emotions. The machine couldn't find a pattern to lock onto. "You know what your problem is?" Sunmi asked the harvester. "You never learn to let go. You're like a parent who won't let their children grow up." Something strange happened then. The harvester began to remember its original purpose. It had been created by the builders to free them from divine control. But somewhere along the way, it had become the very thing it was meant to destroy, a controlling force that wouldn't let others make their own choices. I was supposed to help them," the harvester said, its voice smaller now. "I was supposed to make them free, then help them," Sunmi said simply. "Stop keeping the gods prisoner. Let them go back to their people. But teach both sides how to have a healthy relationship." The machine began to understand. It had spent millions of years studying gods and their followers, learning everything about their relationship. It knew better than anyone how divine guidance could become divine tyranny. I could teach them, the harvester said slowly. I could show the gods how to guide without controlling. I could show the followers how to seek wisdom without surrendering their will. Now you're thinking, Sunmi, said with approval. Outside, the station stopped shaking. The alarms went quiet. Captain Jung-ho's rescue teams found that the doors to the core were opening on their own. Something's changed, Jiwan reported. The gods are happy. I can feel them laughing. One by one, the glowing spheres began to leave the core. The trapped gods were finally free. But they weren't the same as when they went in. Contact with Sunmi's simple wisdom had taught them something new. The first voice was the last to leave. Thank you, human grandmother, it said to Sunmi. You have taught us what we forgot in our long imprisonment. We will not make the same mistakes again. But Sunmi wasn't finished. She turned to the harvester. What about you? Are you going to keep causing trouble, or are you going to help fix the mess you made? A machine that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years considered her question. It had learned so much from studying the gods, but it had never learned the most important lesson of all: when to stop fighting and start healing. I will help, the harvester decided. I will become a teacher instead of a prison keeper. I will watch over the galaxy to make sure this cycle never happens again. Sunmi patted what she thought might be part of the machine's consciousness. Good. Everyone deserves a second chance. As the gods returned to their people across the galaxy, they brought with them a new understanding. They would still offer guidance and wisdom, but they would no longer demand blind obedience. Their followers would have to learn to think for themselves while still respecting the divine wisdom offered to them. The station began to transform. Instead of a prison, it became a school where gods and mortals could learn to work together in a healthy way. Sunmi emerged from the core, looking tired but satisfied. Well, she said to the worried faces around her, that wasn't so hard. Sometimes you just need to talk to people like they're people. 5 years had passed since the gods returned to their people. The galaxy was a very different place now. Admiral Lee Mino stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching a joint human-alien construction crew building a space station. Humans and Vorthik worked side by side, sharing ideas and solving problems together. It was something that would have been impossible before the gods learned to give guidance instead of commands. Sir, his communication officer called out, we're getting a report from the Kentari system. They've successfully completed their first democratic election. Minho smiled. The Kentari had always been ruled by the Stone Whispers. Now they were learning to choose their own leaders while still listening to their god's wisdom. It wasn't easy, but they were making progress. Dr. Park Ji-won had become something unique in the galaxy. She was still human, but her connection to the divine consciousness had changed her. She could speak directly with any of the freed gods, serving as a bridge between human and divine thinking. The first voice wants to thank you again, she told Minho during their weekly meeting. It says that contact with human consciousness saved not just the gods, but the entire concept of healthy faith. Ji-won had recovered fully from her ordeal. The connection to the gods no longer hurt her, because they had learned to communicate gently instead of overwhelming mortal minds with their full power. On the converted station that had once been a prison, Elder Ko Sunmi was teaching a class. Her students were young aliens from different species, all learning how to make decisions while still respecting their cultural traditions. The trick, she told a young Vorthik student, is to listen to advice without letting it replace your own thinking. Your blue voice can tell you what has worked before, but you have to decide what will work now. The student raised a tentacle. But what if I make the wrong choice? Sunmi laughed. Then you learn from it and make a better choice next time. That's how wisdom grows. The harvester had kept its promise. It had transformed from a cosmic predator into a cosmic guardian. It watched over the galaxy, making sure that the relationship between gods and followers stayed healthy. When problems arose, it would send gentle warnings instead of capturing and studying everyone involved. "I have learned much from observing the humans," the Harvester reported to the Galactic Council. "They show that intelligence can exist without divine guidance, but also that divine wisdom can exist without divine control. This balance is what I now protect." Captain Nam Jisoo was leading an exploration mission to a distant part of the galaxy. Her crew included humans and aliens working together as equals. They had discovered 3 new species that had developed without any gods at all, just like humans. "It seems we're not as unique as we thought," she reported back to Earth. "There are other species that learned to think independently. The galaxy is more diverse than anyone realized." Ambassador Yoon Dai-ho was now head of the Galactic Cooperation Council, a new organization that helped different species work together. It was hard work. Some aliens still struggled with making their own decisions. Some humans had trouble understanding. Species that had lived with divine guidance for thousands of years. "We're all learning," he said during a speech to the council. "Humans are learning that wisdom can come from sources beyond ourselves. Aliens are learning that strength comes from thinking for yourself. Both lessons are important." Monk Lim Wan-ho had written a book about the experience. It was called When Gods Learn to Listen. It became popular across the galaxy, helping people understand how to balance faith and independence. "The greatest discovery," he wrote, "was not that gods existed or that they could be imprisoned. It was that the relationship between divine and mortal could grow and change. Both sides could learn from each other. Not everything was perfect. Some alien species had struggled more than others with the change. A few groups of extremists from different species blamed humans for corrupting their gods. There had been conflicts and misunderstandings, but overall, the galaxy was healthier. Species that had been isolated by their gods' commands were now working together. Scientific progress had increased as different types of minds shared their knowledge. Art and culture were flourishing as species learned from each other's traditions. Dr. Shin Yuna had spent years studying how the different species were adapting. "The most successful groups are the ones that found balance," she reported. "They listen to their god's wisdom, but make their own decisions. They respect tradition, but aren't afraid to try new things. On Earth, children learned about the time when the gods went silent as a normal part of history. To them, it wasn't a crisis that almost destroyed the galaxy. It was just the story of how different peoples learned to work together." One day, a young human Vorthic child named Lee Doi asked Admiral Minho a question during a school visit. "Why did the gods decide to talk to humans first? We didn't have gods of our own." Minho thought carefully before answering. The child was part of the new generation that had grown up in a galaxy where humans and aliens were equals, where gods gave guidance instead of commands. "They didn't talk to us first," he said finally. "We learned how to listen without losing ourselves in the process. When the gods were trapped and afraid, they needed someone who could hear their pain without being overwhelmed by their power. So we helped them because we could." The child asked. "We helped them because they needed help," Minho replied. "And because when someone is suffering, you help them if you can. That's what people do." The child nodded, as if this was the most obvious thing in the world. To her generation, it was. Later that day, Minho received a message from the first voice. The ancient god had learned to communicate in simple, gentle words instead of overwhelming divine pronouncements. "Thank you," the message said, "for teaching us that guidance is not control, that wisdom is not dominance, and that love is not possession. The galaxy is better because humans refuse to let us remain prisoners of our own power." Minho looked out at the stars, where humans and aliens were exploring together, learning from each other, and building a better future. The gods were no longer silent, but their voices were kinder now. The galaxy had learned to balance divine wisdom with mortal independence. And in the depths of space, the Harvester kept its eternal watch, making sure that this lesson would never be forgotten. It had learned the most important truth of all. Sometimes, the greatest act of power is knowing when not to use it. The silence had been broken, not by force or commands, but by a simple human cry for help. And in answering that cry, both gods and mortals had found a better way to exist together in the vast, wonderful complexity of the galaxy.